viewers, welcome back to my YouTube channel English Made Easy by Teacher Ezra. Today we want to continue our study on A Doll's House. Yesterday we did an introduction to this text. Today we are going to study the episodic analysis of Act 1 beginning from episode 1. In Act 1 we have stage direction there. This stage is set for this act, and in Act 1 we are able to see that it takes place in Helma's living room, and the room is furnished comfortably and tastefully, but not extravagantly. Still again, a testament to what we talked about yesterday, that this text is a realistic prose drama. I want us to go through some of the facts present here in episode 1, and I want to make it clear that episode 1 majorly emphasizes on the marital relationship between Nora and Torvald. Through symbolism, the Christmas tree, which is presented to Nora by the potter, symbolizes or represents the decorative roles of women in the society. As we can see, Torvald uses pet names on Nora. In page 2, as we are able to see, Torvald asks Nora, "Is that my little lark twittering out there?" Then again, page 3, he also states, "My little skylark must not droop her wings." Yet again in page 4, he states, "Is my little squirrel out of temper?" So, Torvald treats Nora always as a doll, preferring to call her with pet names. These names belittle Nora, and it suggests that Nora is a doll in Helma's house. Again, when Nora suggests that they can borrow money, saying that this time they can go a wee little bit, saying that because Torvald is going to be the bank manager and is going to have lots and lots of money, then they can be a wee bit reckless. What does Torvald say? Torvald says that is like a woman, suggesting that he's chauvinistic. Then how should women behave? How should a woman talk, and how should a man talk? So Torvald gets to dismiss Nora by stating that is like a woman coming out as a male chauvinist. Again, it is important to get to know the idea that Torvald has towards borrowing. And this one, to a greater extent, will shape the plot of this text. Torvald says, that is in, if you look at page 3, when Nora suggests that this time they should really get to use money as much as they want, and they need not to economize. Then Torvald says, Nora, you know what I think about that? That is what it thinks about the debt. He says that no debt, no borrowing, there can be no freedom or beauty about a home life that depends on borrowing and debt. So I want us to pick that point, and I want it to help us later on in analyzing this text so that we can get to see how the plot develops on this attitude of Torvald about borrowing. Again, what we need to note in this first episode is that Nora seems to be completely happy and she responds to her husband affectionately when she is called by the pet names. It seems that she is enjoying the moment. She is enjoying being called these pet names. She is happy. We see her happy to come home with the shopping. She requests for money from Torvald for herself, and these add up to bring us to a fact that in this society, a woman is entirely dependent on her husband. It is interesting to note that Torvald seems to cash in on this dependence by Nora, and we can see him dangling his purse in page 4, where he states that, "Is my little skylark drooping her wings? Is my little squirrel drooping her wings?" Then what does he use to manipulate Nora? He takes out his purse and asks Nora, "Nora, what do you think is contained here?" Then Nora says, "Money." So that brings us to a fact that Torvald seems to be using money in order to manipulate Nora. Another thing to note about Nora's shopping is the choice of items that Nora buys for her 3 children. For Iva, we can see Nora there buying a suit and a sword. For Bob, Nora buys a horse and a trumpet. It is then interesting to see what Nora buys for Amy. Nora buys for Amy a doll and a dolly's bedstead. And she continues to say that, the dolly and the dolly's bedsteads are so plain, but she fears that very soon Amy will break them to pieces, to show that she sees Amy as unreliable. From childhood, men and women, and in this case, boys and girls, are patterned to behave in a certain way. Amy is believed to take feminine roles from childhood, in that she is to play with dolls and dolls' bedsteads. And then if we look at if we look at Bob and Iva, they are expected to act masculine from the word go. They are expected to play around with suits, to play around with swords, a symbol of security. They are expected to have trumpets and horses. And as we know, during this era that the text is set, there were horses and swords. These were symbols of war and masculinity. So in a way, they are patterned. Boys and girls are patterned to behave in masculine and feminine ways from childhood. So men and women are given their positions in the world from the word go. So it is then interesting to see the choice of clothes, the choice of items that Nora buys for her 3 children. Then again in this episode, our shift then again focuses on the flashback when Nora and Torvald flash back on the events surrounding the last Christmas. They relive the events of the last Christmas where the cat tore the ornaments on the Christmas tree to pieces. Torvald then gets sarcastic by saying that there was a precious little result then. He goes on to state that it was, however, Nora's intention to please all of them, that is, to please the family. And from this, we get to know the cumulative attitude of men through Torvald, in that the role of a woman in this society should only be to please the husband, please the family, and please the children. The woman has no role to herself. The woman should have no purpose in life. It is also very important to note how sarcastic Nora also becomes in this episode. When Torvald states that Nora is wheedling out money from him, and he compares Nora with Nora's papa, then Nora sarcastically states that how she wished she inherited more of papa's qualities. She seems to be hitting back at Torvald by stating that how she wished that she was given some of the responsibilities that men have. How she wished that in this patriarchal society, she also gets to have a purpose in life, just the same way men have purpose in life. She seems to suggest that how she wished that she was also on the same footage as man, and she is not seen as a subordinate to the men. So then that sarcasm, which is quite not understood by Helma, who always views Torvald as childlike, as entirely reliant on him, he does not pick up that sarcasm. When the text comes to an end, very many people get surprised by the defiant nature of Nora. But in this episode, there seems to be a slight glimpse of a foreshadow of what to expect of Nora. Nora, even after being told not to eat macaroons by Torvald, goes on, of course secretly, eating the macaroons to show her defiant nature. And this is what broods her ultimate rebellion later on in the text. So then, if someone is keen enough to take a line here and a line there, that person is then able to understand the nature of Nora's rebellion later on in the text. Something that I would also want us to look at this in this episode as we continue with the discussion of this text is that Nora may seem materialistic. Nora may